It's not the teacher standing up front telling me what to do, but she and I are meditating. And we can talk about our experiences. Now we're building this relationship, which, again, I think is a foundation for learning at any age, certainly, in some of these high schools.
Now, you mentioned, when we talked about diversity, you mentioned all the students from abroad.
Yes.
What about lower income, African American, Latino, American Indian?
Yeah. We have work to do. Yeah, when I was on the board of Marshall Academy in Concord, New Hampshire, we had a lot of African American and Latino students there. Unfortunately, that school did not continue, but I've used that example to suggest as we build our dormitories and whatnot, we really need to think about how we bring Fairfield students in, how we bring in students from across the United States. I mean, fortunately, we've had 3 transgender students come forward and present us with their identity. And to the board's credit, right away we said, we want you. We're going to be a gender-inclusive school. Now, saying that and doing that are 2 different, so we have to train our faculty, but what we've said publicly, particularly in light of the denial of transgender rights under Title IX with the new administration, that we're a gender-safe environment. And if you can't, come to us. And that may be, one way of bringing greater diversity to our campus. There may be families whose children are transgender, who they feel either in their public or private schools are protected. We protect our kids there. Our bathrooms are gender neutral. Children play sports according to the gender identity that they're entering into. And of course they have TM, which is helping, these emerging adolescents as they move through puberty and hormone and whatnot. They have this thing. And while all this stuff is fluctuating, this thing is stable. This is solid. They transcend, they experience it. So you have this foundation. And I think I don't want to underestimate how important it is to a young person who is trying to figure out where's my body taking me. So that's one thing the school has done.
Well, that's really good. And of course, North Carolina, we're in the forefront in the sense that we have the anti-bathroom bill from before the Trump administration. So
I have, with great pride, have seen educators push back on the administration, say we're going to be safe. Will you come for us? And even some private schools say this does not sound like freedom. It sounds like states' rights, which has this ominous recollection of post-Reconstruction states' rights, which meant Ku Klux, meant all Jim Crow, it meant all kinds of things. And I have to say, in communities of color, there is a recollection of this kind of thing happening, and they're girding themselves for whatever is coming. So maybe TM again can be an outlet in the struggle.
So, for transgender people, it's a very strong emotional challenge for the students and also for the institution to accommodate or to reshape itself. But when you talk about low-income people, there's the additional challenge that MUM and the Maharishi School, I assume, are largely privately supported.
Yes.
So most of the people who go there have their own finances to be able to afford it.
Yes.
Are there any prospects for finding levels of financial assistance that would enable more people of first-generation, low-income backgrounds to come?
Well, certainly David Lynch Foundation has been very generous in their support of Maharishi School, both the university and the school. I think in terms of the numbers that we're talking about, because they are both relatively small institutions, charter schools, although I don't understand the politics of charter schools in some states, but that has been one way to go. In Los Angeles, because that's free, there are some. Los Angeles Unified School District has approached the TM movement to do more work in its system. So that would presumably make TM available to low-income children in Los Angeles. And I think that's probably a way to go. I would like to actually see it infused into the traditional public school structure, where TM is available and made available because of funding from the district, I know the possibility of doing training teachers is there. So the Marshy School, I think, is this interesting lab, but I think in terms of the magnitude of intervention we need, particularly with impoverished districts, we're probably looking at something in the public schools. Unless a major foundation, the Gates Foundation or something, came forward and said, you know, how much do you need? And then, you know, we could certainly make it available.
Has anybody thought of sending a proposal for that sort of thing to either a major foundation or a major donor, like Ray Dalio has been a major donor to the David Lynch Foundation?
Again, I think David Lynch Foundation has done some of that work. This may be the work of another entity, or maybe David Lynch Foundation itself. I think really what it would take is a group of dedicated, cross-discipline professionals. So you get educators, folks like your people in public health, epidemiology, you know, even Veterans Affairs cross-section, and then say, how can we go into community and help a lot of folks? And then we would find ourselves reinforcing, supporting, and doing the work with one another. I think when we are kind of one entity trying to do, let me see the police, let me see the blah, blah, I think we really need, maybe back to the old days, like when we were working, as I said, this cohort that we were working as, working together, seeing where our commonalities are, and then using something like TM. But TM also needs to have this kind of culture of responsiveness, so that it has both the immediate impact of learning and then the application that continues long after a person has learned initially. What do I do with my meditation? You know, where can I go? Basically, growing activists. I could go into communities and make the kind of change you're referencing, because low income is not there by mistake. Okay? There is a reason why there's poverty in this country. There's a reason why there's still segregation in places like I grew up in Pasadena, or Chicago. I live in Chicago. There are reasons why that happened, and I think long term we've got to confront those reasons and dismantle them. And there are areas that I think want to do that. And so, as I was listening to Dr. Ford talking about the way that racism morphs, you know, is hoods, you know, back in the day is state policies, and you know how it keeps morphing. So we have to keep challenging it. And my point is that TM is not about being inclusive. It's about a tool for activism. So we're not withdrawing from any of these challenges. We're building resilience and creativity so we can go and confront it. And so I think we need to dismantle the reasons why there is poverty in this country. It supports the country in some, you know, weird way. There's some reason why we have racism. There's some reason why we have homophobia. Something benefits from it, and we need to dismantle it. And there are countries that have tried to work on that.
There are reasons why we have it, and there are some benefits from it. But I guess I think of it as being resulting from short-sightedness.
Yes, absolutely.
That it's been the outcome of people pursuing what they think is in their interests from a narrow understanding of their interests. And that as people's awareness broadens through things like TM, they will realize that it's actually more in their interests to do things. I mean, poverty doesn't really help most people. It actually harms a lot of us indirectly, as well as the people who are poor, obviously. But when you, I mean, like in public health, you see this with illness. When you get people with a contagious disease, everybody's at risk from that. And it's at some point it was realized, yeah, we should make immunizations available because that's how we protect ourselves too. But that's true not only for immunizations. It's true like when you're driving down the road, nice car, comfortable, air conditioning, everything like that. Do you care whether the people who are driving next to you are reasonably content with their lives, or is it all right if they're frustrated and angry and upset and anxious? And they're driving cars that maybe aren't well, they're mechanically not sound. When you're going at 50, 60 miles an hour, you want those cars to be in good shape and you want those drivers to be in good shape. But we kind of operate in society as if it didn't matter.
Sure.
We don't think about that.
Because I can get somebody to clean my house for $10 an hour rather than a living wage. And I think somehow, you know, that benefits me. As you say, it benefits no one.
Well, I mean, you get your house clean,
Right.
and you save some money. So there is a benefit in that sense. But when you translate that to the economy as a whole, and companies deliberately underpaying people or whatever, it actually comes back to bite us. And you as an individual may have a very small price to pay for underpaying your house people, I mean the people who clean your house. But I think from a societal perspective, the people with lots of money and lots of power, as they come to see things more broadly, and we have instances, I mean, you see wealthy people who are philanthropists and donate to all sorts of good causes to help society, and you see people who are wealthy who use their money only to enrich themselves and to try to keep good things from happening. So I think there's an issue of consciousness there.
Absolutely.
My hope is that TM, as more and more people of wealth and power learn TM, it will actually help society to improve in terms of these structural changes that we need. I mean, why would a species destroy itself? And why would a species deliberately obfuscate to keep people from making changes that would be beneficial for, I'm thinking of climate change, for example? It's a very interesting biological phenomenon. And my hope is that TM is going to help humanity become more aware and more effective in how we live. And in doing so, we will eliminate poverty, because poverty is really not helpful. And you have areas, there are areas of your community where you don't feel comfortable going. You have, you hire somebody, and then that person has family, and that person's family is getting sick, so then they can't be fully with you because they're concerned about their family. They're driving cars that break down, so they can't get to the office. I mean, they're, in very little ways, as well as big ways, large costs. And for what? So I can have 20 million instead of 5 million?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but this is your interview, and I'm starting to take it over, so I do.
No, but the point you raised is really critical. I was standing waiting for a train, and 136 cars of coal went by, and I'm thinking, God, look at the dust coming up. I mean, the mountain that was a mountain is no longer there. For what? Like if we had done solar, if we had constructed these houses in such a way that they weren't good, if we were really using, as you say, our consciousness. And here's the point. I think as we do something like TM, as we do TM, and we're not only getting in touch with our consciousness, we're getting in touch with nature. So we actually find ourselves living more in a way that is less kind of violent to nature and more in tune. The long-term prospects of doing what we're doing right now is really self-destruction. We will find ourselves in a very bad way if we don't figure out how to live in accord with nature.
With laws
and
of
the
nature.
earth. And I think this is one of the hidden promises of TM, is you don't have to write it down, and you gradually just start living that way, because your body becomes more attuned to what it needs and to what the environment will give it. So again, I think these are some of the hidden benefits, if you will, not just the rest, relaxation, and resilience, but living our lives in a way that is more supportive of nature. And as we do that, nature supports us. So it's this give and take. Oh, I see. You really do appreciate what I'm giving. Okay, well here's, you're healthier, and you're not doing things that are self-destructive. I don't necessarily, know how people, respond to that. But it's an invitation to live.
Tell you my experience. I realized I wasn't getting distracted by things as much. Most of us are aware of lots of things, but some things tend to dominate. And, like, oh, that's flashing object there. Oh, that pretty sound, or something like that, or this emotion, this hormone, or whatever. And as one gets distracted by those things, one is overlooking some of the things that maybe don't jump out at you that could be more important. So that as the mind quiets down a bit, it's like when you have very noisy children or whatever, and they settle down, you can appreciate, you can see more. And that's what I found in myself, that I was spontaneously paying attention to things that mattered in a way that I hadn't before, because I wasn't being as distracted.
Yeah. That may also be the expansion of consciousness. Like going from this relatively narrow 5 to 10% of our awareness to more, 10, 20%.
So you're going to be talking in a little while, so we need to wrap this up, about TM outreach to communities of color. Do you want to hold it all for the seminar, or do you want to say anything about it now?
I was struck, Victor, by a presentation that John Hagelin gave once, who was the president of MUN. He was talking about this kind of absolute level of consciousness, quiet, whatnot. And he said at some point it decides to manifest. So it goes from unmanifest to manifest. And there are these three things that come out of this absolute nature of life. And they begin to interact. And that diversity creates all of what we see around us. And of course, diversity being my word, I tune into it. And the point here is, oftentimes people will say, we have more in common than we do, different, we're all one, blah, blah, blah. But that explanation, that actually we are all the result of this unmanifest multiplying. The point I took away from his lecture was, the more of us that are around the table who are different, the more of those laws of nature that we have present. And we actually feed off from and learn from one another with that diversity. And I took that a step further. I said, okay, I was driving from Chicago to Fairfield, and it was corn from Chicago to Fairfield. One blight of corn is going to wipe all this out. But if we had biodiversity, then there may be some safe space in there where where the bugs or the germs or whatnot stop, because now we've got soybeans and now we've got apples, and the greater eco-diversity is, the more sustainable it is. And for human beings, the more of us that are diverse together, we're thinking slightly differently, but we're bringing different angles to it, the stronger the outcome is. So for me, what I want to explore with the folks today is, what does that mean for us? To be in tune with nature, to appreciate the diversity that is around us, to figure out how to use it, how to grow from it. And those are actually questions I have of the folks that are in the room, whether they're meditators or not. I'd really like to explore that notion of, because I think diversity and consciousness are married in a really important way and can continue to grow and enrich our lives. So that's a piece of what I'm interested in.
Great. Well, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming here. Well, for
Great
coming
to talk to you.
And talking and recording and everything.
Yeah.
And let me cut this off. I was going to show people the conference program, which I put out here so I could do it, and then there it is. So, let me let you hold this, because you were a speaker, a presenter in the 38th Annual Minority Health Conference. And
it was a great day. Great 2 days.
And also, we should get you to hold your portrait from teacher training.
Ah. So, when I was talking about going from Seattle down to Humboldt State University, this was the day that Maharishi arrived, and he entered the field house from the sidewalk, and I thought, well, I would just go over there and give him a flower and say good morning. And so my friend captured that picture. So this was the first day I met Maharishi and was able to, I think I got a smile from him, I'm not sure, but I gave him a nice flower.
That's great. I'm going to try to get a scan of that or something.